Uh, I'm sorry? Okay. Call to order our Tuesday, April 21st agenda session. Do I have anyone with objections to the minute? If not, they'll approve as read. Ordinances on final reading. Does anybody have any questions about that?
I'm good in District 4.
District 4, okay. We'll drop down to 6A, ordinances on first reading. Madam Clerk, would you read 6A, please, under legal?
An ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 13, Civil Defense, Section 13 through 15B, Civil Emergencies, and Chapter 20, Health and Sanitation, Article 3, Contagious Diseases, Section 20 to 42, Duties of Police.
Okay, we went over this just a little bit in our strategic planning. Councilman Mitchell, would you like to reiterate some of your thoughts and ideas, please?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just, when we went over it, I had stated at 6 o'clock I'll be moving to table this item as we, and I see Councilperson Burr's hand up, so I won't use her wording, but I see some things in it where I question the direction it seems to have us headed in, and I would like to see us table it and try to do a better job of figuring out where we want to go with it. And with that, I'll quit and yield over to Councilperson Burrs.
Councilwoman Burrs.
Yeah, thanks so much. I'll be brief. I agree with the councilman. I think although very well intended, it's got some issues. I think in many places it's vague and overbroad. There's some wording that I would change. The bottom line is, my question is more one of process, Mr. Chair, and that is, do we table it or do we take it off the agenda?
Tabling it does take it off the agenda. I think we have to do something, Mr. Attorney. I believe we do have to take some type of action with it. If no one makes a motion, the motion fails. But we can table it, and then it could be brought back at a later time.
Okay, well, I guess my question is, when we go over the agenda session on Tuesday afternoons, is this just to gather more information, or is it at the agenda session we can take things off the agenda?
If an item is placed on the agenda under your rules right now, it has to be taken off by vote of the council in a public meeting.
Well, this is a public meeting. Can it be taken off now? Or I'm not saying that's what we're going to do.
Right.
The 1 o'clock meeting and, excuse me, the now 2 o'clock meeting and the 3:30 meeting.
This is your agenda meeting, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, these are all public meetings.
Mm-hmm.
So this is really a question of process. If there's some, forget this one. If there's something on the agenda that shouldn't be there, or we didn't want it to be there, since it's our agenda, can we take it off at the 3:30 meeting?
I believe that you have to move during the public meeting, which is scheduled, and everyone was advised to come. It is scheduled for the 6 o'clock agenda this evening, and it was on the agenda last week as notice to the public that would be on the 6 o'clock agenda for this evening. So I believe that under your council rules, you can take things off, and you can do that in a public meeting. I believe it needs to be done tonight.
Does it? Okay, this is just a matter maybe we're not in agreement on, but we have a lot of stuff that stays on the agenda. I thought the issue was just that we could take it off at a public meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
But it has to be the 6 o'clock. I don't see that, but that's your opinion, correct?
Yes, ma'am. And that's where it was noticed for. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Chair.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions on this item? Councilman Byrd.
Chair, what committee would this fall under if this was be put into committee?
Well, I don't know that we have a committee for legal. That might be under legislative, which will fall under Councilman Smith. I'm sorry, Vice Chair Smith.
Vice Chair, because at some point in time, I like I said, do not agree with some of the language in this, but we do have to have some teeth in something to say what we can and can't do, because in a lot of parts, especially in my community, is a lot of gatherings that are being done, and people are doing things that are going against the ordinance. And a lot of people that are abiding by the ordinance, they're asking me what repercussions come when a store doesn't shut down the way it was asked to shut down, or things don't happen the way you were asked to do. So I think we do need to figure out some way or some form of fashion to implement these laws or these rules. But I think it's definitely to be discussed. So I would like to see it go into some type of committee to be discussed.
All right, thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, would you make a note for me at the end of our agenda session after purchasing? I do want to announce our committee appointments.
Yes, sir.
That way we can fulfill Councilman Byrd's request here.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Any other questions on 6A while we're here? I see no hands. We will now go to resolutions 7A, Madam, or 7C, I'm sorry, 7C, Madam Clerk.
A resolution authorizing the City of Chattanooga to accept a grant from the Department of Justice Office Programs Victims of Crime, funding 2021 through 2023, managed through the Family Justice Center with the city's matching funds in the amount of $92,742.75 for an amount not to exceed $463,713.75.
Okay. I see no questions. 7D, please.
A resolution authorizing the Chief Human Resource Officer to renew a last year option with Cornerstone On Demand for the Learning Management System in the amount of $35,900.
Any questions from the council? Seems like the hands have a delayed reaction for some reason. Under Public Works and Transportation, Councilman Mitchell, did we go over these last week? Did I remember that correctly?
Mr. Chair, I believe we did, but I believe I saw something, and I can't remember if it was between last Tuesday and this Tuesday, about 7F, and there might have been some amounts that were changed, and I believe, Mr. Attorney, you actually put those changes in, or do we need to talk to somebody from Public Works who tells us that these are indeed the correct amounts?
The amounts that were bolded were put in at y'all's request here from the last meeting on there for Public Works. So those are the exact numbers.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So, yes, sir. So does anybody have any questions regarding items E, F, or G, since we did cover those in last week's Councilwoman Coonrod? Unmute your mic, please.
Thank you, Chair. So
There you
are
go.
we, for item F, will we be expecting any more additional funds to go towards the Avondale YFD Center at this point? Because we've really spent over the allotted budget for the Avondale YFD Center. And I mean, I don't want them to continue at this point to keep coming back asking for more money for this recreation center. Like, we need to figure out, you know, the individuals that we contracted with originally stated that they could do this job within the scope of work with the amount of money. And we've more than several times allocated additional funding to this project. Now, will this complete this project, or are we gonna need more additional funds moving forward?
Okay, Vice Chair, so I see Mr. Holland is on board and Mrs. Sullivan's on board. Can they raise their hand if one of those two could address this issue?
Not at the moment, but I can certainly allow that to take place.
Okay.
All right.
If you would.
Now they can.
Okay, Ms. Sullivan or Mr. Holland, if you could raise your hand, whichever one wants to field that question.
There we go.
Oh,
Mr.
Mr. Holland,
Yes, sir.
are you with us? Thank you, sir.
I
Can
am.
you answer that question for Ms. Councilwoman Coonrod?
Yes, so this was value engineered as the last part of this contract for Avondale YFD Center. There were a number of change orders. Some of those change orders were, they began in the community and came through the council as part of requested changes. And other changes were value engineered early on This scope of the site work has been value engineered and should be the final amount of work. And there is a contingency in the contract as well to cover any unforeseen items that we might run into in the field.
Okay, any follow-up questions, Councilwoman?
Okay, so what additionally needs to be done with this center? It appears to be the perfect YFD center. And at this point, I mean, we need to start looking at other YFD centers that's clearly been poorly kept up in other areas to make sure those centers are up to par, because more than half of them look like they're condemnable at this point. So, I mean, I just don't see after this me voting on continuing to add money into this YFD center. So what are the exact needs that are needed?
Well, this includes the site work that is outside of the building, and it also includes required water quality installments and the general grounds of the facility. So in the value engineering, it's the parking lot and finishing up the grounds work, including water quality installations for stay-on volumes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Ledford, I see your hand. You have a question?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman. Hey, Justin, first of all, thank you for an incredible job, you and your department, this past week and continuing on. We all owe you a tremendous amount of gratitude. You and your crew, Public Works, has simply been amazing. Number two, regarding item F, I was reading that and it came to mind. Is this an overage of the original amount? Can you tell me what the original budgeted amount was? And is this I know we had some site work issues, landscaping issues that we're addressing, but do you have the final numbers of where we originally budgeted and where it's going to end up?
Sir, I do not have that in front of me.
Okay.
It might take me a minute to get.
That's okay. Whenever. It's not an immediate need. I just was kind of trying to put this. So was this outside of the original budgeted amount as complications developed?
So the site work was separated as a second project from the construction of the building early on. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but they have been two separate projects since the construction began.
Okay, I think it does. If you find those numbers, if you can share them with me, I'm just would be curious from an educational standpoint. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thanks again, Justin. Yep.
Right.
Thank you, Chairman.
All right, thank you. Any further questions for Mr. Holland? Councilman Byrd, I do see your hand. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Holland, I think you answered my questions when you was explaining. This money right here is not new money, but money that was already appropriate for the site work, correct?
That is correct. It was part of this project. It was just separated as a different part of the project.
Exactly.
It was
And then
all part of.
some of the money that was allocated or asked for in the process of building the building itself came from when constituents had, or the committee that was put together had issues with some of the construction or some of the things that were going on inside the building, where they came from the seating arrangements or things of that nature, correct?
Those were some of the changes, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. See no other hands. Thank you, Mr. Holland, for joining us. Okay, I see no other hands. That concludes this portion of our agenda. We have no departmental reports. Do we have any purchasing questions for this afternoon? Okay, let me ask if any council person has any questions on next week's agenda, Tuesday, April the 28th. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to review that. Are there any items that you have questions on regarding next week's city council agenda? Okay, I see no hands at this time. Okay, At this time, I'll go ahead and announce our committee chairs. Councilwoman Burrs will remain with Finance. Councilman Byrd, if you could go to Public Safety Chair, I would appreciate that.
All right.
Councilwoman Coonrod, YFD. Councilman Gilbert, HR. Councilman Ledford, Planning and Zoning. Councilman Mitchell, Public Works and Transportation. And Councilman Oglesby, ECD. If you could handle Economic Community Development Chair for me, which brings us to our Economic and Community Development Committee. So I'm going to turn it over at this time to Councilman Oglesby, who will chair that committee. Councilman Oglesby, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Chair. I appreciate that appointment. I'll do you well, as well as the rest of my colleagues.
I'm sure you will. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Now at this time, I'll call to order today's Economic and Community Development Committee meeting for April the 21st. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded. If there's no questions, all in favor by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. Motion carries. Okay, first item, we have a number of resolutions, and 7A and B, I believe, was read into the record last week. Is that right, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Okay, so for the record, resolutions 7A and B has been read into the record. Now we will move on to next week's April the 28th item, resolutions. Madam Clerk, please let's start with 8A.
A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a parking lease agreement with the House of Blues, Inc. in substantially the form submitted to parcels located at tax map number 167CB015, 167CB016, and 167CB017, with assigned addresses of 4327 Oakland Avenue, 4333 Oakland Avenue, and 511 West 45th Street, for a term of 4 years of the rate of $1 per year, with the parking to be used by members of the Greater St. John Missionary Baptist Church and for charitable purposes as authorized by the League Board of Directors.
Thank you. Seeing no hands. Let's move on now to 8B.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Economic and Community Development to renew an agreement with the Chattanooga Area Regional Council of Governments for the administrator of the Small Business Loan Fund.
Thank you. Seeing no hands. Let's now go to 8C.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Economic and Community Development to enter into agreement with Design Workshop for the development of citywide parks and greenways master plan in the amount of $220,000.
Councilwoman Coonrod, I see your hand.
Thank you, Chair. You know, I just really don't agree with this. Like, doing what we're going through right now, this crisis, this pandemic, we're saying that it's an emergency to help businesses stay open. We're needing help making sure people remain in their homes through rental assistance. However, we're giving $220,000 for a citywide parks and greenways master plan. Like, is this an immediate need that we need to appropriate our funding to? Like, can this money be allocated to something else right now due to what we're going through right now? Is this something that we need? Do we need a updated master plan right now? And could our money be used in another area that could clearly use this money?
It's Ms. Sullivan available. Council Vice Chairman Smith, you see her?
He is on.
In attendance.
I'm here. Hello, how are you?
How are you, Ms. Sullivan?
I am well, Mr. Chair. Thank you for having me. We thank you for that question, Councilwoman Coonrod. This is an item that we have been planning for about 2 years, I think, and this money was funded in last 2 years' budgets. We have finally selected the consultant, and this is planning for all of our city's public spaces. It guides all of our financial decisions over the next several budgets and helps us ensure that our districts are all equally represented and that everyone knows what to expect from our greenways and parks. So I believe that it's still a very important piece of our work with the city, and don't see any reason to use that money in a different way at this time.
Well, my district isn't represented because I don't have any parks.
Yes, ma'am.
So, well,
that's why we're doing a master plan like this. Exactly.
Okay. Well, hopefully it'll result in one getting in District 9 then.
Okay, is that it for you, Councilwoman Kumarai?
That's it. I mean, I still don't agree with it. I think the funds could be utilized in another area. Like, we've already waited 2 years to get a master plan. I mean, we can wait another 2 years in the crisis that we're in right now. It's other things that I feel like that's more important right now.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Madam Clerk, let's move on now to 8D.
A resolution authorizing the Department of Economic and Community Development to manage an allocation of $938,930 from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development awarded under the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, and any sub-allocations from the state of Tennessee that may be awarded to the city under the same program.
Councilman Ledford, I see your hand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is this money, when it says manage an allocation, is this money that we already have or in anticipation of?
Is someone from ECD here, or Ms. Sullivan?
Yes,
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
can I make a suggestion? Maybe I think the next 2, 3 items, 4 items all have to do with the COVID-19, and I think Ms. Donna Williams has a little bit of a presentation, doesn't she, on this?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Yeah, she's coming
Okay,
on board now.
Okay, so is the presentation, I'm looking at it here, Ms. Williams, is it going to be E, F, G, and H combined, or E, F, G? What is your recommendation on how to present this? Because I know you have a full presentation plan for us.
Yes, sir. It covers D, E, F, G, and H.
H. Okay. All right. Well, if you just hold on a second, we will hold off on that until we read item I, and then we can circle back and hear your presentation on items D, E, F, G, and H. So, Madam Clerk, would you please read
Item, I'm sorry.
8I.
A resolution approving short-term vacation rental application number 20 STBR 00039 for property located at 2411 Vine Street.
Okay, excellent. Councilwoman Coonrod, anything you want to share with us? Or?
I do have a question for Ms. Donna. Do you know if this property was ever cited for being ran as a short-term vacation rental already?
Is my mic open?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, no, I do not, but we certainly can find that information.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman Coonrod. Okay, that will close this portion of the Economic and Community Development meeting. Now we will move on to our presentation. Ms. Williams, you have the floor for the presentation.
Great, thank you, Council.
Thank you.
I'm going to share my screen. Are you all able to see that okay?
Yes, you are.
Okay,
Oh,
great.
yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you for allowing us to get this on the agenda so quickly, and to the chairman and our department chair for taking time to talk to me on Friday so that I could give you a good overview of what we're going to be doing. As has been said before, and it's obvious to everybody, we are in the midst of a number of crises, unfortunately, that have converged. The first of which was the COVID-19 virus, and there are many folks in need of help from the city and from other partners in the city. So what we are proposing, ECD is proposing, is the COVID-19 Emergency Rental and Utility Assistance Program. Let me say that we have been working on this ever since the crisis presented itself. We have been working with HUD and with our local partners to come up with this program. We're very happy that we've gotten it to this point. Very happy to say that our HUD representatives and HUD at the federal level has kept us abreast of all kinds of changes that are coming about. In fact, there are many changes that have been coming about daily. And luckily, all of those have been to the good of the citizens of Chattanooga. So what we are doing, we were proposing that you allow us to do, is to create this program, the COVID-19 Emergency Rental and Utility Assistance Program. It is designed to help those folks who have lost their jobs, been furloughed, or had their hours reduced because of the economic impact of COVID. The assistance will be for up to 3 months. That is currently the federal limit for rent assistance with these funds. So we are proposing that we be allowed to manage the program with those guidelines. That's an up to number. Not everybody will get 3 months, but they're eligible for up to 3 months. And the funding for this, and this is pretty critical, the funding for $600,000 of it is HUD funding that we already have. So it's previous year's allocations that we stated in our 5-year consolidated plan would be used for other activities. Obviously, with the situation we're in right now, this is more dire and important than some of the things that we were going to use it for. So that $600,000 we currently have. We also have an additional $250,000 from Tennessee Housing Development Agency, THDA, for a combined amount of $850,000. Any questions there before I go on? Okay, so as you all well know, you are very familiar with the purchasing process at the city, very familiar with the state procurement laws. Those guidelines, though certainly necessary for a number of reasons, are an impediment to our ability to respond quickly to folks who are in need of rent and utility payments. So we're very, very fortunate to have had our partner, Chattanooga Neighborhood Enterprise, agree to serve as the agency that will process the checks for us. So C&E will be floating the money. They will write checks twice a week. It's the plan at the moment. They will write checks twice a week to landlords, and then they will send invoices for reimbursement to the city. So we have the money, they will write the checks and send us an invoice, and we will reimburse them so that we can keep the process going. Recipients for the HUD money, that's the $600,000, can have incomes up to 80% of the area median income. You will see those numbers in the packet. They're in the packet that I sent to you on Friday. The THDA money can go up to 120% of the area median income. Those numbers are in the packet as well. All right, so the resolutions you have before you are really required by HUD and by the city in order for us to pivot with the uses of the funds from what we had originally told HUD and told City Council we were going to be using the money for. So the first one is the $600,000 from the CDBG money. We are not going to use it for some of the activities we had originally planned. We are asking for permission to use it specifically for rent and utility payments for folks impacted by COVID. The second one is we're asking for your permission to use the $250,000 that we've received from THDA to do the same thing, but for families whose incomes may be over 80% of the area median income. Okay, the third one is we need your permission to expand the scope of work with CNE. We already have a contract with CNE, but we need to expressly amend the contract to include this scope of work. And then finally, this is some really good news, and this answers Councilman Ledford's question. We have been notified that we will be receiving through a special allocation of CDBG. It's coded as CDBG-CV for COVID, $938,930 to help us further the work that we need to do for families who have been impacted by COVID. Okay, any questions before I go to the slide that shows the incomes?
Let me see. It's the way it's set up. I can't see any hands with this screen.
Councilman Ledford has his hand up, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Chairman. I think my question was answered. Donna answered it. Is the money, is the check in the mail, Donna, or do we already have access to it?
We haven't received it, but we've received notice that we will have it.
Okay. Is that,
yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That was my question. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman Gilbert is next, sir.
Okay, Councilman Gilbert.
Donna, is it possible that the $600,000 that we're going to use some of that for electric power board, electric power, is electric power board going to help us also so that we can do more with 600,000?
Good question. We are, well, you may or may not know this, but the utility companies have been fabulous with families who've been impacted by COVID. So they will not be doing disconnects for families who are unable to pay their utility bills, but those bills need to be paid. So this money can be used to pay some portion, in some cases the entirety of whatever the utility bills have been during the time that the utility companies did not disconnect.
That's good. Thank you.
Okay, Councilman Henderson has his hand up.
Okay.
Thank
Please
you.
feel free to call out the names the way my screen is set up, Mr. Vice Chairman.
That'd be
Thank you,
Chairman
sir.
Henderson next.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Williams, just to be clear, the increase in scope of work for the Chattanooga Neighborhood Enterprise is no additional dollars to the city, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir.
Councilwoman Coonrod.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Donna, so I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. So this money is already money we've already had. It's no new money that's come in.
There are two sources. The CDBG money, the $600,000, we have that money.
Okay.
The $938,930 is money we will be receiving by virtue of the CARES Act.
Okay, and I heard you mention that this was some money previously that you all were going to use on other activities. What were those activities that are now not going to be?
Typically, that would be money to do home repair. It would be money to subsidize the building of houses and or multifamily units. But right now, the focus is to keep people in the houses that they're in and apartments that they're already in.
Now, with the YFD having the portion of their program to provide for rental assistance, will that still continue?
Yes, thank you so much for mentioning that, because I want to state how closely ECD and YFD have been working, particularly Rachel Howard's team at the Office of Family Empowerment. They have been amazing. And so we have learned how their money performs and the guidelines for their money. And we've been integrating that with the way that we work. We have been able, through this partnership with CNE, to get money out to the landlords and utility companies much more quickly than YFD is able to do, just because of the nature of the money that they receive. Mm-hmm. So we have been collaborating on that. And also, I think equally as important, we've been collaborating because many of these families would greatly benefit from being part of the programs offered by the Office of Family Empowerment, so that they are more able to sustain an emergency, certainly not catastrophic like the COVID virus, but sustain an emergency in the future.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not hadn't had the opportunity to read over that CARES Act, but thank you for the information. I'll be reading over to see what all else that the money can go towards. I think it's a great thing that you're doing. Very thoughtful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Councilman Byrd.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Williams, I'm going to miss you, Ms. Donna.
You did a great job. You left us in good hands. Right.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
good job, good job.
you
Would this affect the Millen Street duplexes? Would this put that in any type of strain? I know we were waiting on some titles and things to go through, or some background information before we start development on Millen Street.
No, sir.
That's still a go.
Yes, that's a very good question. Yeah, we have additional CDBG money that we will be receiving in July with our regular allocation. This
Okay.
is from previous allocations.
Understood. And do we know of any marketing tools that are put out there to educate people on still, although we are not, EPB is not disconnecting or the water company is not shutting off during this time, that to still be mindful in cutting off your lights and be mindful of that at the end of this, you will get a bill that can in some case be, astronomical. So we want to make sure that we're letting people know that that bill is still coming one day, and to just be mindful of the way you are handling your light bill and make sure you're cutting off lights and turning things off.
Sure.
Is there any type of marketing or anything out there to educate people on that?
I think that the utility companies are trying to emphasize that because they don't want people thinking that they're not going to have to pay their bills. People still have to pay their bills. We're here to assist them with that responsibility, but they still are responsible for their utilities. One of the things that I'm super proud of is we have a team of 5 people. In addition, there's 5 staff in addition to Sandra Gober, who's the manager of community development, myself, and Richard Howard, and folks on Rachel's team. So we have 5 people from my team, folks on Rachel's team, and then the 3 of us. And folks have been able and are still able to go to the city's COVID site and fill out a request for assistance for housing. And when they fill that form out, they will receive a personal phone call from one of my team members that will triage them to determine what exactly they are eligible for and really what their situation is, which will help us determine what they're eligible for. And we've been working with a number of partners to relay that information back and forth. And one of the things that my team is making folks aware of is that you have to pay your utility bill. You're going to have to pay it. So whether they're getting the money from the state, thank you, Chairman Henderson. Chairman Henderson told me about that state money before the state told me about the state money. So they can use the money they receive from the state. They can use the money they received from the federal, from the CARES Act, the money that folks started getting last week. And then they could use any unemployment that folks will have, luckily through this process. There are a lot of funds that have been designed to provide some assistance to folks during that time so that they can pay their rent, pay their utilities, and other responsibilities that they have.
Okay, thank you. What would be would it be just on the website when you go to Chattanooga.gov to find out all of this information? So to send people to a pretty much one-stop shop, just go into ECD and follow those links from there?
Yeah, thank you for that. If they will go to Chattanooga.gov, when you get to the home screen, on the right-hand side, you're going to see 3 options. The second one, I think it reads workforce and small business, something to that effect. When they click on that, it will take them to a very short form that allows them to make a request for assistance. And then one of my staff members will call them and, as I said before, triage them to see exactly what they need, what their situation is, and what they may be eligible for.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Byrd.
Chairman Henderson, your hand's up again, sir.
It is. Ms. Williams, and you touched on it, and I was going to ask you about it later. about some of the funds that we were redirecting were our home repair funds. And we had a group scheduled, in fact, 2 different groups scheduled at one point to come in and help us with the minor home repair program that we do. And I know one of the groups had already been told they couldn't come, and then the second group sent me an email yesterday, I think, saying that they had postponed all of their projects until next year. How will we, and many of the residents were already contacted and we got their information, how will they be contacted to let them know that we won't be doing that this year?
Sure, that's a good question. So we have, I want to say we had 57 completed applications, and each of those folks will be receiving a phone call and a letter from us letting us know that due to the COVID-19 virus, we will not be doing home repair. The vast majority of those recipients, as you know from working on the program, they're seniors, and we certainly don't want to put them at risk.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to make sure that we touched base with them to make them aware that we weren't going to be able to do the program this year.
Yes, sir. We just came up with that strategy yesterday once we finally got that letter from Mike, and we were like, okay, we need to let everybody know that it's been postponed.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Councilwoman Coonrod, I see your hand again.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Ms. Dunn, I got a question not related to this presentation. Is that okay?
Well, let's finish up with this presentation, then we'll move on to other business under ECD. So are there any other questions related to Ms. Williams? Okay, seeing none, thank you, Ms. Williams. Great presentation.
Thank
We're looking
you.
forward to all the great things that this fund is going to do for the citizens in our city. So with that being said, Councilman Coonrod, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Donna, how are we handling code enforcement due to the COVID?
You mean, are we doing anything different?
Are we still, right, what are we doing different, or,
Nothing. What we're doing operationally is, of course, our staff can't come to work. So our code enforcement officers, our code inspectors, they start their days and they go into the field, and then the work that they typically would come back to the office to do, their computer work, they're doing that from home or in their vehicles. We're getting ready to go into our busy season because it's spring, but by and large, we haven't had any shift in the way we do what we do.
Okay, so are we still citing people? I hear you, but like people can't, get people to come cut their grass as they normally would. Are we still citing people because their grass is high, or are we giving them an opportunity to get it done? I mean,
that was a good question, because I had the same situation. I was like, oh, wouldn't it be embarrassing if I got a citation because my grass is too high because my guy can't come cut my grass?
Right.
So we are in discussions about that. How do we handle that? As you all well know, the courts are closed, but we're going to be talking about how we do that, and still have that balance of public safety.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Coonrod. Is there any other business that needs to come before the Economic and Community Development Committee today?
Well,
Anthony Byrd, Councilman Byrd, I thought I saw your hand.
No, sir. I apologize. It's not up.
Okay, that's okay. Chairman Henderson.
Mr. Chair, before we completely adjourn, I would like to bring Ms. Sullivan on to give us an update on the efforts out in East Brainerd area.
Absolutely. Ms. Sullivan.
Wait, my light up on. My hand was up.
Oh, I thought, okay, again.
Yeah.
While we waiting on Ms. Sullivan, please feel free to take the floor, Councilwoman.
Thank you. Well, I don't know if it's under economic development or not, and I wasn't here last Tuesday to know if this question was asked or not about alerts for the tornado going out. Did anybody ask that question?
No. What's the question?
Well, because a lot of people have, reached out and concerned about, they didn't receive an alert, or we didn't have an alarm that went out prior to the tornado hitting.
Who can answer that question?
Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna let Maura, if she would, talk a little bit about that. It's obviously under Hamilton County, but Maura, if you would address that.
Yes, sir, I'd be glad to. That is handled through Hamilton County Emergency Management. So through Chris Adams is the Emergency Management Officer appointed by Mayor Coppinger. And they handle all of that emergency notification, location of tornado warning sirens if we had those in our county, which we don't, and make those decisions.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. So I can direct them to the right people.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Councilwoman. That's a great question. All right. You want to address us, give us an update on where we are with the recovery, Ms. Sullivan?
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate your allowing me to take a few moments of your time to let you know where we are now. Last Tuesday, I know that Carrie was able to give you an overview of where we were at that point. We've had a few more days of work, so I'm going to talk fast and give you a lot of information, and happy to share any other information with you after I'm done as well. The tornado path that came through on the 13th came through an area of 12,000 parcels, with initial estimates showing that there's a minimum of $225 million in damages to buildings. That does not include infrastructure damage. TEMA, the Tennessee Emergency Management Association, or Agency, pardon me, came in with FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and checked the assessments that we had done, and looked at that work, did some of their assessment, took our assessment material, gave that to the governor on Sunday, and it was submitted to the federal government through FEMA to the president's office, as is to happen on Monday. They have told us that usually we usually hear back within about 2 days about a declaration. So hopefully we will hear tomorrow about a federal declaration for our disaster. The numbers that FEMA reported to command from their assessment were that we had a grand total of 2,718 properties that were damaged. Of those, 254 were destroyed. 259 received major damage. 549 received minor damage. And 1,755 were otherwise affected. More than 60,000 residents were without power as a result of this storm. EPB was able to return power to more than 51,000 residents in just a few days' time. And now only a handful of homes are still without power. EPB internet and cable connectivity is being restored with infrastructure while it's being rebuilt now. And I have to tell you that you may hear some work. I'm at my house working from home, and I am not in the affected tornado path. I'm just outside of it on Missionary Ridge, and I was out without power until just really yesterday. Came back off and on Saturday night and parts of Sunday, and the roofers are here now on the house. So if all of a sudden you start hearing a lot of noise, I apologize for that. But that is the time that we are all living in right now for the damage that I had to my roof and the leaks that occurred here. So I want to highlight the work of a few of our departments. Every single one of our departments came to the rescue, so to speak, and leaned in and engaged in heavy work around the tornado. But I want to highlight the work of Public Works, CDOT, police, and fire for you. Public Works Had crews out immediately, prioritizing work to clear roads. They're now working to remove debris from residential properties in the roadside. Staff are also working to repair our damaged infrastructure at Heritage Park, Heritage Dog Park, the Heritage House, several wastewater pump stations, the Summit landfill, and the Summit ball field. Last week and throughout this week, Public Works has deployed all available resources to those areas affected by the tornado and to clear roads and begin working to clear debris. Between 50 and 70 crews have been working every day in the area throughout the week, with over 35 heavy trucks and large heavy equipment such as excavators and grapple trucks, along with chainsaw crews to clear the roads. Crews are now transitioning from clearing the primary roads to debris removal from properties in the roadside. As of yesterday, Public Works had removed 879 loads consisting of 3,890 tons of vegetative and construction debris from the area. Would y'all like to hear that again?
Yes, I would.
879 loads that they've hauled out. That has consisted of 3,890 tons of vegetative and construction debris from the area.
That's amazing.
That's through close of business dark last night. Since the beginning of the, yeah.
Where are they taking all that? Just to the landfill?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Since the beginning of the event, crews have worked over 5,300 hours. Many have worked 10 and 11-hour days. Both TDOT and Knoxville have provided a significant amount of assistance for us through this, and we are very, very grateful for their work. Today, Public Works has the same number of crews out, and they are continuing the work that they're doing. We also will be getting an emergency. You'll be seeing that we've submitted an emergency purchase for a debris collection agency and a debris monitoring contract. As you all may remember, with the 2011 tornadoes, you have specialized monitoring that goes on for FEMA declarations. So you'll be seeing the results of that contracting next week, and we'll have contractors on to help us do this work. CDOT, 22 total signals needed repair and reconstruction. 100% of our available electricians and electrical crews performed emergency on-call service since that early morning, April 13th. I might add that CDOT electricians reported heroically, Blythe wrote, which is such a nice word to say, soon after the storm passed through, and they did. So many of our employees did. We used all of our available inventory of traffic signals and have already processed an emergency new purchase for about $20,000 to replenish our supply. How many signs do you think were damaged? 300 have been identified so far. Mostly at this point, the signs have just been inventoried and evaluated and not replaced yet, because of course we're allowing other crews to get in there and do their work before the signs are done. We have temporary barricades everywhere throughout the area. We have cataloged that we're going to need, right now it looks like about $2 million in street repair in the affected area, not just necessarily from the storm or anything that you see today, but the overall stress of the event with heavy equipment being on the road so much that we'll need additional repair from bridges and roads and any other roadway repair. Fire, let's talk about fire. Currently, fire is situated at the command post at the County Highway Department. They are working with EPB, the Sheriff's Office, and CPD there, while EPB is finishing up the power reconstruction and the fiber optic infrastructure reconstruction. We have 2 EMS crews established in the area for fast delivery. It's still difficult for people to get through the roads, emergency crews to get through the roads, so we just have EMS stationed in place so that we can respond quickly to any unfortunate events that may arise. We have the command post. This second command post will be looking to scale back operations totally as soon probably as Monday, depending on the progress of EPB. We are coordinating with Tennessee American Water and East Side Utilities. We have 33 fire hydrants that have been affected in the area. 24 are still covered with debris. We're working on that, and 9 are damaged and need replacement. The National Guard has been very helpful to us in identifying the hydrant locations through the mapping that we have, but helping to boots on the ground go and find them and clear them of the debris that is covering them. We are also coordinating with city and county building inspectors to have homes inspected before returning power. And of course, we have prioritized those homes where there are medical needs. Just to, when I talked about that I have a little storm damage here at my house and have had some inconveniences, that's nothing compared to the folks who are inside that actual tornado zone, of course. And when we did our mapping through our Office of Performance and open data of all of the affected homes, we found that about 200 city employees were affected with different levels of effect. So just in the firefighters, who of course were responding so much in this area, of the firefighters, we had 23 firefighters who had minor damage and power outage in that affected area. We had 6 who had a major loss of their home, and we have 4 with a total loss to their home. But in all, we have about 200 employees who were affected in this storm. Let's talk about police. On the night of the tornado, we had 119 police officers sign in at the command post, the initial command post that we set up immediately afterwards at the Lowe's on Gun Barrel. Thank you to the Lowe's for allowing us to take over their store in the middle of the night and their parking lot and set up a command post for us to coordinate our response. Then we moved to Silverdale Baptist Church, which was just such a wonderful place for us to have as a command post for the entire week. CPD helped coordinate that, and CPD officers began to work 12-hour shifts to assist with cleanup, traffic control, and security in the impacted areas. Our command post remained in that facility until Friday night, about 6 o'clock. We brought that down and then moved to the Hamilton County Highway Department as we've continued to ramp down our response. As of 4/20, as of yesterday, we had 275 officers of the Chattanooga Police Department who had been working various 12-hour shifts around the clock to assist with the recovery efforts. That's translated into more than 700 12-hour shifts worked by officers, with that number continuing to grow as the recovery efforts continue. The cadets from our academy also got in on the show. They helped with the residential cleanup, working volunteer crews, and they helped with the distribution of goods at the YMCA. And speaking of the YMCA, the Hamilton Family YMCA came through for us as well, and they volunteered to be the volunteer center. In basically 2.5 days, the city officially processed 1,752 volunteers. People of Chattanooga and the surrounding area all came out to help our neighbors. In reality, we really worked with more than 2,000 volunteers when you factor in the support from the Y, the National Guard, the cadets who I spoke of, and other volunteer groups that we coordinated with. We sent out 1,200, pardon me for my dog barking, she's barking at the roofers. We sent out 1,208 volunteers in chainsaw and equipment teams. We sent out 466 volunteers to do other manual labor, like helping families gather personal items, move, pack, clear debris. We had facility operations volunteers assisting with checking in volunteers, sorting and organizing donated items. We staffed 12 water food pickup locations throughout the impacted area in both the city and the county. We loaded supplies, hygiene items, food, and delivered those out to the impacted neighborhoods and made food deliveries. So what happens next? We continue to help with recovery. For the long term, we'll have volunteer efforts continuing for the next couple of phases of the recovery. There's several local nonprofits, faith-based organizations, and disaster relief agencies who have mobilized and are working with the EOC and our fire and police crews to deploy volunteers and to continue to help rebuild the community. During this transition, we have we've activated what's called Crisis Cleanup. It's a service that works similar to 311. People in need of assistance can call a number, and I'll give that number out. I think you all have it, but I'll give it out again. It works like a work order system. You call in and you give what you need done, the cleanup and work at your home, and then volunteer groups go into that and choose the work order based on their group's capacity, take ownership of it in the system, and complete it once the job is done. So that number is 844-965-1386. And the Hamilton County YMCA is continuing to accept donations and offering curbside pickup for families in need of supplies. And that is a summary. Sorry it was so long, but that is a short summary, actually, of all the work that your Chattanooga City employees have been doing.
Awesome. Awesome.
Okay, I see, thank you very much, Maura. I see Councilman Ledford's hand.
Thank you, Chairman. Maura, I cannot thank the city employees, the response, the continued response. I tell you, it has taken so many spokes in this wheel. We have made so much progress. Over my shoulder, it says "one step at a time," East Brainerd, and the city of Chattanooga and everybody who works for the city of Chattanooga is making those steps easier. And I cannot thank the city, our public works, EPB. I was on the ground at Hamilton Place yesterday for several hours, just trying to gauge the amount of work going on. Everybody has been, I mean, we should be so proud. You should be proud of leading a team of remarkable people in this city. And from everybody in East Brainerd and the East Hamilton area, God bless each and every one of you, because it has been amazing. We'll get through this one step at a time. And I'm just I cannot tell you how overwhelmed it is to see, in the midst of a national crisis, the abundance of support, the abundance. I mean, people have just stepped up where people might have been nervous 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago with where they were going to get their next meal. The abundance of support in this community, in the city of Chattanooga and Hamilton County, has just been inspiring. And I thank everybody on your team. Especially, I want to say I've worked very closely with Brooke and Travis. They were just remarkable working out of the YMCA with organization. And I wanted to make sure that they were given a special mention, because I tell you, those two individuals right there also stepped up and helping organize volunteers. So Maura, from my heart and everybody out here, thank you.
You, sir.
Okay.
Thank you for all your help.
All right, Councilman Coonrod, I see your hand.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. I just mimicked Ledford, and I'm tearing up now because it was just really devastating what I saw. Really heartbreaking. You know, what I experienced during the tornado was nothing compared to what I saw in East Brainerd. And then to hear that a child passed away, that was even more heartbreaking. But you all were amazing. You know, you stepped up when you came to my neighborhood. I mean, people were still in good spirits, trying to see how they can help, assist, get everything done. I know, you know, I got several calls about, you know, people feeling like their area was neglected, and their area wasn't neglected. You know, they could only get to those areas as soon as they could. But if they would have had the opportunity to see the loss in East Brainerd, I think that their hearts and minds would have felt a little different. We have people who don't even have a home. You know what I mean? Like, even myself, like I complained, and I know I bugged a couple of people on staff because I didn't have any lights. I couldn't feed Peyton at the time. I was very frustrated. And but the next day when I couldn't even take a shower. I had to go, didn't even know what I was gonna do. I felt like I was gonna lose it. But when I saw what happened in East Brainerd, I couldn't, if there was room to drop to my knees at that moment, it was just that heartbreaking. My heart still go out to everybody that was affected. I pray for you guys every day. Ledford, I'm just thankful that, you really weren't in harm's way. And Mara and them, you all came to the rescue, like the police department, the fire department, the city. I got a couple of city workers that live on my street. Like I heard them rolling out like right after the tornado had hit, and it was just amazing to see the people come together. I've went out a couple of times and volunteered what I could do. But again, even now, it's still now today, it's still too emotional for me. But again, I thank you guys for all the hard work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your support and your help.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman. I see no other hands. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have for ECD.
That's all that I have, unless somebody has something else that they need to bring before this council.
Chairman?
Yes.
Which one?
Yeah, which one?
The Chairman Henderson, if I may just say a point of a personal note, thank you for coming out with your chainsaw and your truck. We cleared several yards, worked together side by side, and I tell you, social distancing, of course. And you had your earplugs in all day, so you didn't hear me yelling at you.
Yeah.
But you did a great job with the chainsaw. It was nice to work alongside you in a different fashion. And I'll pull the logs and tree branches any day for you, sir.
Well, you worked me like a borrowed mule that day. So
thank you for your help.
You're so welcome, and I was happy to help.
Yes. Right. And special thanks to where's he at? There you go, Vice Chairman. Thanks for bringing dinner over to the house. Appreciate that.
Our pleasure.
That was nice. Thank you, brother.
Okay, is there any other business that needs to come before the council at this time? If not, we will be adjourned until 6 o'clock.
Thank you.
See you then.
See you at 6.